The poet has been describing the higher worlds of ideal which we experience when the bud of love at the core of our being is struck open by a presence, by a touch or a voice. And he continues, this in high realms touches immortal kind. The experience of these realms on the higher stairs of existence has an immortal flavor. What here is in the bud has blossomed there. That is contained as a potential in our being. It is not something totally new. There is the secrecy of the house of flame, the blaze of godlike thought and golden bliss, the rapt idealism of heavenly sense. In that domain, there is the sanctity, the secrecy of the house of flame, temple of flame, where godlike thoughts move, trailing a brace behind them, and there is a golden bliss, golden to indicate touch of truth, divine truth, the rapt idealism of heavenly sense. The sense which we condemn here has a higher term, a celestial sense, and it has its own idealism, an idealized consciousness. There are the wonderful voices, the sun laugh, a gurgling eddy in rivers of God's joy. God's joy flows there in rivers, and in the flow of that river there is an eddy which gurgles. There is a lot of foam and it turns round and round in ecstasy. And the mystery vineyards of the gold moon wine. In this kingdom of God's joy, the delight of the moon is like wine, gold moon wine, again the touch of truth. And all there are the vineyards where this wine is manufactured. And to indicate that they are not our type of vineyards, he says, mysteried, full of mystery. They can't be analyzed, scrutinized by the mental reason. All the fire and sweetness, there is all the fire and sweetness of which hardly here a brilliant shadow visits mortal life. The highest that we can experience in our mortal life is only a brilliant shadow of the fire and the sweetness which naturally flow in the celestial domain of the ideal world. There too, this is a world of ideals in the mental region. So he says, although are witnessed there the joys of time, that is, it is in the rule of time. The existence of the ideal worlds of the mental type are subject to the rule of time, but there time is not that compulsive, a tyrant as here in our world. There it is all a joy of time, but still it is time. So he says, although are witnessed there the joys of time, pressed on the bosom, the immortal's touch is felt. The touch of immortality, the touch of the immortal being is felt on the bosom. Heard are the flutings of the infinite. The calls, the enchanting calls of the infinite are heard there perpetually on those heights. Here upon earth are early awakenings. Our best moments on earth here are only early awakenings. Moments that tremble in an air divine, vibrate and groan upon the yearning of her soil, and after awakening there is a yearning, an aspiration that grows on the soil of earth, and out of that yearning time's sunflowers gaze at gold eternity. The sunflowers of time, which blossom only at the sight of the sun, they gaze at gold eternity. They are not yet become eternal, but they gaze, they look at the gold eternity. There are the imperishable beatitudes. Beatitudes, tranquil states of bliss, and they are imperishable. There is no fear of their receding, and he describes a million lotuses swaying on one stem. Here is a whole philosophy of his, that out of the one, the many blossom. A million lotuses swaying on one stem. World after colored and ecstatic world. Each world is a lotus with a different hue, with a different state of ecstasy. Climbs towards some far unseen epiphany. This stair of worlds climbs towards some kind of celebration, a new and a happy birth, which is yet unseen. On the other side of the eternal stairs, the other side, the mighty kingdoms of the deathless flame aspire to reach the being's absolutes. Each world, each kingdom has a limitation of its principle. So each world, governed by its respective principle, is trying to reach out to its absolute in the being of the Supreme. Out to the sorrow and darkness of the world, out to the depths where life and thought are tombed, buried, lonely mounts up to heaven the deathless flame. The aspiration of the earth, the aspiration at the heart of each world mounts up to heaven, irrespective of whether we help it, support it, participate in it or not. In a veiled nature's hallowed secrecies, in the sacred secrecies of hidden nature, it burns forever on the altar mind. Mind itself is the Vedi, the altar, and the deathless flame burns forever on the heights of the plateau of the mind. Its priests, the imageries of a sacrifice. There is the platform, there is the altar on which the flame mounts up, and there have to be priests, and the priests are the souls of dedicated gods. Gods who are not content in running their empires, but who are dedicated to the central purpose of the Creator. They are the priests that preside over this mounting flame, and humanity, its house of sacrifice. So the whole of humanity is what is called the Yajnashala, the house of sacrifice. Mind is the altar. Mind is the highest developed faculty of the human being. Mind is the altar. And the deathless flame which shoots up from the secrecies of the earth burns forever with the souls of dedicated gods, appointed gods, acting as priests. So the whole cosmic existence is pictured as an eternal sacrifice. That is the old Vedic imagery. Once kindled, never can its flaming cease. Not only in the universe, but in the heart of each individual. Once the real aspiration is kindled, it will never cease. As Mother would say, we may become unaware of it. Engrossed in our outer preoccupations, we may lose our awareness of that flame, but the flame continues. Once it is struck and it is lighted, there is no going back. Once kindled, never can its flaming cease. A fire along the mystic paths of earth, it rises through the mortal's hemisphere, till, borne by the runners of the day and dusk, day, periods of illumination, dusk, periods of twilight, where the light is dimmed, they are the runners who carry that light till it enters the occult eternal light and clambers, slowly rises up, whitening, becoming white, becoming pure, to the invisible throne, the earth's aspiration, rising through the heart of humanity, carried by the runners of the day and dusk, enters that light, and as it does so, it whitens, it gets purified, as the invisible throne of God nears it. Its worlds are steps of an ascending force of consciousness ascends, and each step Each world that it passes through is a step on the way to the eternal light. Its worlds are steps of an ascending force, a dream of giant contours. It is this kind of a dream with huge contours, outlines, titan lines, not human, superhuman lines, homes of unfallen and illumined might. These worlds are homes of a strength and a might which has never known a fall, is always illumined. Heavens of unchanging good. There is an unchanging good, natural, spontaneous good is what obtains in these heavens, pure and unborn. It is always pure. It is not a good that is created by the effort of human beings, but an unborn good. Heights of the grandeur of truth's ageless ray. Truth's ray, illumination, radiation, ageless, eternal, not subject to time. As in a symbol sky, they start to view, and all these high heavens, as if they look at us, they start viewing us down and call our souls into a vaster air. These worlds, these heavens have always their gaze turned towards the earth, the denizens of the earth, and constantly call them to come out of their limited, cribbed environments and step into a vaster air. On their summits, they bear up the sleepless flame, the Agni of the Veda, dreaming of a mysterious beyond. These worlds are not the final beyond. They are aware that there is still a beyond, dreaming of a mysterious beyond, transcendent to the paths of fate and time which govern us. They point above themselves with index peaks. These heights, as they go up, they have so many peaks, and each peak is pointing above its own tip through a pale sapphire ether of God mind. Blue, pale sapphire, pale blue ether of God mind, mind that has become a God mind, towards some gold infinite's apocalypse. All these point to some revelation of gold infinite, of truth in its infinite aspect. A thunder rolling mid the hills of God, tireless, severe is their tremendous voice. When these heavens, when these worlds become articulate, express their call, it is like a thunder rolling mid the hills of God, tireless. They never get exhausted. Severe, imperative is their tremendous voice. You can't deny it. Exceeding us, they are beyond us. To exceed ourselves they call. Standing high above us, they call us to rise above ourselves and bid us rise incessantly above. Rising above is not that one day we will rise above. Each moment we have to rise above what we are at that moment. Mother's whole philosophy of change, of growth, of perfection is that every moment you are in a particular status, a state. You have to make an effort to rise above that. Next moment you have to rise above that. So it is a continuous exceeding of oneself. It is not an end product of a result, but a continuous process of exceeding. Exceed. Now I have an idea, I have a thought that governs my mind. I think this is true. I have to go beyond that thought. Next moment I have a feeling, I have an emotion, and I feel that's the best. I have to see that there is something more, I have to rise above that emotion. Relationships with people around. They appear to be happy, nice, but I have to rise above that attachment, that relationship, and take my station still above. So the whole cosmic effort is to exceed oneself every moment. You can't stay put, you can't stay satisfied. That is the meaning, and bid us rise incessantly above. Far from our eager reach, those summits live. We are very eager, we are very impatient, we are very restless. But those summits are far from our eagerness, too lofty for our mortal strength and height. Hardly in a dire ecstasy of toil, climbed by the spirit's naked athlete will. It is with great difficulty that in an ecstasy of toil, you toil, strive and work in a mood of ecstasy. And it is your athlete will, athlete Herculean will, naked, unadorned by any kind of emotions or theories, knowledge, but a direct thrust. And with that ecstatic toil of an athlete will, you climb with great difficulty to these worlds, austere, these worlds, these heights, austere, rigid, ascetic, serious, intolerant. They can't tolerate our weaknesses, our human imperfections. They claim from us efforts too lasting for our mortal nerve. Our mortal nerves break down under the weight of the effort that is called for. Our hearts cannot cleave to, nor our flesh support. But on that account, it is not an adventure that is doomed to failure. This is only to underline and emphasize the inadequacy of unaided human effort. That is why there is the divine grace, there is the divine strength to help, and the secret of change, secret of yoga is to rest oneself in the arms of the divine with trust, with faith, and let oneself be carried without demanding progress, without demanding fulfillment. The attitude, Mother underlines, has to be, let thy will be done. Thou knowest the hour, let me serve thy will. So your will is tuned and linked to the higher will. Says, only the eternal strength in us can dare. The strength of God, the strength of grace can dare to attempt the immense adventure of that climb and the sacrifice of all we cherish here. Our best human will cannot achieve this supreme sacrifice, cannot negotiate all the difficult paths between our levels here and the supreme heights. After all, he says, our human knowledge is a candle burnt on a dim altar to a sun-vast truth. What we have to know, what we have to realize is like the vast sun, the sun of truth. And before that, our human knowledge is a small candle. And we think we know the divine by our mind. Says, on our human knowledge is a candle burnt on a dim altar to a sun-vast truth. Man's virtue, on which he prides himself so much. The virtuous man thinks himself to be superior to the sinful creatures around. He says, man's virtue, a coarse spun, ill-fitting dress. It is a dress that has been spun out of coarse yarn. It doesn't even fit properly, ill-fitting. Apparels, wooden images of good. Our good, our virtue is a loose-fitting, coarsely woven covering of wooden image of real good, not even living good. It is a wooden image. Our ideal of good is a kind of wooden representation, and our highest virtue is an apparel, a loose dress we put upon that. This, he emphasizes, how far we are from the ultimate good, from the good of the divine. Passionate and blinded, bleeding, stained with mire, his energy stumbles towards a deathless force. Man, the human being, in all his struggle, though he is blinded, bleeding on the way, stained with the earth and mire, he stumbles on. His energy stumbles towards a deathless force. An imperfection dogs our highest strength. The highest strength we can summon, we can achieve, is dogged by an imperfection. It is never perfect. Portions and pale reflections are our share. We never have the original thing. All that we have are only scant portions, pale reflections of the genuine stuff. Happy the worlds that have not felt our fall. Those worlds are indeed happy because they have not experienced our state of fall here in ignorance, where those worlds, will is one with truth and power, good with power. Will, truth, good, power, they are all one in those happy worlds. Impoverished not by earth mind's indigence, poverty. Our earth mind is poor, and those worlds are not impoverished by the poor state of the earth mind. So what do? They keep God's natural breath of mightiness, His bare spontaneous swift intensities. There is His great transparent mirror self, the self of the world. It is a mirror. It doesn't participate, but it reflects, it watches. Now that self is there, based from there. There is His great transparent mirror, the self, and there His sovereign autarky of bliss, self-existent bliss, in which immortal natures have their part. The gods and the godheads, those who have become immortal, they share, they participate in that luxuriance, heirs and co-sharers of divinity. Those happy beings who live there, the gods, they are heirs to that splendid fortune of immortality and co-sharers. They share with each other the common heritage of divinity. And that is his description of those happy worlds on the top of the mental heavens.